Have you ever noticed how January, the one month that's supposed to be all about fresh starts and new beginnings, so often feels like you're taking a huge financial step backward? Well, we're going to dig into that paradox because the reason so many of us feel poorer right at the start of the year, it's a lot more complicated than just holiday spending. We all love the idea of a clean slate on January 1st, right? It feels like a chance to build new habits, to do better. But when it comes to our money, is it really a fresh start? Or is it something more like a financial day of reckoning? See, here's the thing. Your mindset might hit the reset button on New Year's Day, but your money doesn't. Your money has a perfect memory. Every single holiday gift, every deferred payment, every optimistic swipe of that credit card from November and December, it all comes due right now. So to really understand why this keeps happening, we've got to look inward first. What is going on inside our own heads that sets us up for this annual trap? And that brings us to the internal battle, a fight that's pretty much fueled by our own optimistic brains. And this gets us to a really key idea from behavioral economics. It's called temporal optimism. Basically, it's this powerful and maybe a little misguided belief that the January you is going to be some kind of financial superhero, way more disciplined and responsible than the December you ever was. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? We spend freely during the holidays, basically taking out a loan against a fantasy version of our future selves. We just keep telling ourselves, don't worry, I'll sort it all out in the new year. And there's another mental trap that's working against us, mental pre-spending. So many of us are already counting on, say, a future tax refund to clean up the mess we made. We've mentally spent that money before it even shows up in our bank account, which lets us delay making any tough decisions. We figure a bailout is on the way. The emotional fallout from this whole cycle is huge. When reality hits in January and the bills are way higher than our optimistic brain predicted, it leads to financial shame. And shame is a powerful paralyzer. It makes us want to avoid opening the mail or checking our bank balance at the exact moment we need to be paying the most attention. But hey, it's not all just happening in our heads. We are also dealing with some very real, very inflexible financial pressures from the outside world that are pretty much unique to January. This is the cruel mismatch of January. Our motivation to get our finances in order is at its absolute peak. New year, new me. But our actual ability to make meaningful cuts to our spending, it's at its annual low. So why is that? Well, we think about cutting the small stuff, the little discretionary things. The daily coffee, a streaming service, eating out less. But look at this slide. The bulk of our money in January is actually going to big fixed costs. You can't just decide to pay 20% less in rent this month, and your heating bill is probably going up, not down. We're basically aiming our financial firepower at all the wrong targets. And as if that wasn't enough, January is also the month when all these large-scale systems and institutions recalibrate their prices. And spoiler alert, they almost never, ever recalibrate downward. I mean, just look at these examples. Your health insurance deductible, boom, it resets to zero, which means you're paying for everything out of pocket again. Car and home insurance premiums often get their annual hike. Property taxes adjust. That subscription service you kind of forgot about quietly raises its price. It's like a coordinated squeeze on your wallet. This quote really gets right to the heart of it. That financial pressure you feel in January isn't just a hangover from your personal holiday spending, it's systemic. The entire financial ecosystem actually becomes more expensive for everyone this month. So when we put these two things together, our internal psychology and this external reality, a very, very clear pattern starts to emerge. What happens to us in January is not an accident. It is a completely predictable outcome. Okay, so think about it. First, the system bombards us with ads, deals, and incentives to spend during the holiday season, a time when our emotions are high and our financial discipline is naturally at its lowest point all year. Then, all the consequences of that spending are conveniently delayed and concentrated into one single month, January. And this just happens to be when our motivation to fix everything is at its peak. But like we've seen, our real options to actually do something about it are seriously limited. And this is the really critical part. After this perfectly predictable cycle plays out, the story we're all sold is that it's our fault. We see it as a personal failure of willpower, not as the result of a system that is literally designed to produce this exact outcome. Let that sink in. This isn't about you being bad with money. It's about a financial structure that is built to delay pain, concentrate consequences, and then turn around and individualize all the blame. So here's the loop in a nutshell. We start with that optimistic spending when credit is flowing. Then the consequences all get focused into one really tough month. We blame ourselves for it, which means we don't question the system. And because the system goes completely unchallenged, the pattern just repeats itself year after year. So what is the most important thing to take away from all of this? It's about shifting your perspective. Once you see this as a predictable pattern instead of a personal failing, you can finally move from self-blame to systemic awareness. And that awareness, that's power. Which leaves us with this final, really important question. If you know the rules of the game are basically stacked against you in January, you can't just wish them away. Instead, you have to start asking yourself, how do you change the way you play in all the months leading up to it?